Hot Press editor Niall Stokes gives the background to the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and writes an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg asking what Facebook intends to do about advertising and micro-targeting in the upcoming referendum in Ireland. Read more. The Irish-American singer Tom Moore, formerly of Pumpkinhead and Midnight Well, has died. Here, Hot Press editor Niall Stokes pays tribute. Read more. It was Wednesday, June 14, 1995, when the terrible news of Rory Gallagher's death was first gained through to the Hot Press office. In more ways than one, it was the end of an era. On Wednesday, November 8 that year, a commemoration service was held at Brompton Oratory in London. The ceremony ended with a tribute, which was delivered by Niall Stokes, editor of Hot Press. As a special remembrance of Rory, on what would have been his 70th birthday, we reproduce here the full text of that tribute. Read more. The tenacious Simon Coveney has intervened in the abortion debate, taking a conservative position which opposes the recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly and the Oireachtas Committee. Niall Stokes explains why he should reconsider. Read more. In the latest issue of Hot Press, editor Niall Stokes asks Simon Coveney to reconsider his position on abortion. Read more. A message from Hot Press editor Niall Stokes, from our special Dolores O'Riordan tribute issue. Read more. Ireland were humiliated by Denmark, in the worst defeat suffered by an Irish team at home in years. The question now is, can Martin O'Neill stay on as manager? Read more. Darren Randolph was man of the match. But how did our other players fare last night? And what team will Martin O'Neill pick for the Crunch World Cup tie on Tuesday? Read more. Storms have been afoot, with devastating consequences in parts of Ireland. Step back, however, and they illustrate the extraordinary power of the wind. Why is Ireland not a world leader in wind-generated power? Read more. Women in Ireland should be allowed to control their own fertility. Read more. The emphasis in Mental Health Week is on the well-being of everyone who has to grapple with any of a variety of mental health issues. Indeed, at some point, that probably includes almost everyone in Irish society. Read more. It was a tough and grueling encounter, but Ireland deserved to win the Crunch World Cup tie against Wales, and to progress to the playoff stage. Read more. Over the past fortnight, a Facebook post by longtime Hot Press contributor Adrian Murphy highlighted in the most heartrending way the difficulties of living with a young man with severe autism. Read more. The Ireland and Leinster rugby star tells Hot Press that it is time for change. Read more. As the controversy about the news talk presenter refuses to die, the question needs to be asked, where does this poisonous stuff come from? Read more. When you are told that you need a public services card to avail of social welfare or to renew a driving license, it is mere semantics to claim that the cards are not compulsory. Read more. When you are told that you need a public services card to avail of social welfare or to renew a driving license, it is mere semantics to claim that the cards are not compulsory. Read more. Ireland's World Cup hopes hinge on tonight's do-or-die encounter with Serbia in Dublin. But as Niall Stokes writes, the paucity of tactical ideas on Saturday against Georgia, a recurring theme of O'Neill's tenure, suggests the omens aren't good. And if the result doesn't go our way, it might just signal the end of his time in charge. Read more. Already one of the songs of the new century, Brendan Graham's You Raise Me Up, has been selected as the end title track in a 30-episode epic on the man who is credited, along with his daughters, as a founding figure in the People's Republic of China. Read more. The time for hiding from the lights was over. In so many respects, modern Ireland was born in 1987. And central to that was the huge artistic and commercial success of the Joshua Tree. Read more. Niall Stokes draws on his best-selling book Into the Heart, the stories behind the songs of U2 to offer a unique insight into the way in which some of the greatest songs in the history of popular music came into being. Read more from Hot Press's 2002 annual. Bono spoke to Niall Stokes about all matters personal and political. Read more. 20 years ago, U2 came out with one of their most highly anticipated albums, Pop. Niall Stokes met the band following its release for an in-depth interview. Read more. With the damaging impact of Brexit on the UK becoming clearer by the week, the threat of a hard border in Northern Ireland is likely to be used as a bargaining chip in Britain's increasingly threadbare negotiating strategy. Read more. The Irish music rights organisation has confirmed the appointment of the multi-award-winning Irish songwriter, singer and composer Eleanor McAvoy as its new chairperson, in succession to Keith Donald. Read more. There was what might have seemed like a dramatic development in the controversy surrounding the proposed new ownership of the National Maternity Hospital. But if all that is involved is shifting ownership from one religious interest group to another, then the issue remains as fraught as ever. By Niall Stokes. Read more. Once upon a time, there was a vision of a digital utopia. Instead, we now have global tech monopolies, surveillance capitalism and extraordinary levels of political manipulation. Welcome to the modern world. Read more. With the decision of Enda Kenny to step down, finally, as leader of the party with the highest number of TDs in Leinster House, a new Taoiseach is on the way. Here's an opportunity to check back over our hot press interviews with the leading candidates, to see what can be gleaned. Read more. The recommendations of the Citizens' Assembly may not be as far ahead of the public as politicians are claiming. But we also need legislation to prevent the covert use and abuse of personal data in the context of a referendum. Read more. The controversy about the ownership of the National Maternity Hospital has invited a new focus on the charitable status of church institutions, and the extraordinary and unwarranted financial privileges which they have enjoyed since the foundation of the state. Read more. And no, this is not another hot press article encouraging mass promiscuity. It is about Brexit, and the push from the far right to completely undermine democratic politics. Read more. The cover of Hot Press is a national institution, coveted by emerging musicians and established stars alike. Now, the historic covers of the magazine, signed by the cover stars, and beautifully printed on specially chosen art paper, have been gathered together for a free exhibition, in the National Photographic Archive, Dublin. Introduction by Niall Stokes. Read more. Confirmation of the fact that the remains of hundreds of babies were buried in a so-called mother and baby home in Tuam, Co. Galway is testament to just how sick the attitude to sexuality promulgated by the dominant church in Ireland really was. In special edition of The Message, on International Women's Day, Hot Press editor, Niall Stokes reflects on an issue that has provoked outrage and anger. Read more. On March 9th, it will be 30 years since the release of the Joshua Tree, a record that transformed U2 into the biggest rock band in the world. In this issue of Hot Press, we look back to the genesis of the album, how it was put together and what made it work. And ask, has it stood the test of time? Read more. Over the past week, astonishing revelations have emerged about Garda collusion in a campaign of vilification which painted the whistleblower, Sergeant Maurice McCabe, as a sex offender. With the Child and Family Agency, TUSLA, being dragged into it, this has become a real horror story. Read more. With Steve Bannon directing operations, and aided and abetted by a bunch of power-crazed loonies, the answer is probably very far indeed. Things could get extremely nasty. Read more. There's a rocky road ahead. And we're not talking about the one from Galway to Dublin. The good news is that Irish musicians have become far more politically involved than ever before. The bad news is that we are all facing into a particularly difficult and uncertain future. So how can we all, citizens, musicians and the media alike, deal with the political challenges ahead, from the referendum to repeal the 8th to the effects of Donald Trump's presidency, knowing that we have entered the post-truth world, and that this is the backdrop against which fascism has been gaining momentum? Read more. It took the combined force of Hot Press's editor Niall Stokes and U2 journalist extraordinaire Bill Graham to thrash it out with the four members of U2 back in 1987 to uncover the method and the magic behind their seminal album The Joshua Tree. Read more. Speculation has been mounting about a special U2 tour that would celebrate the release of their global smash hit album The Joshua Tree, 30 years on. Well, the announcement will be made this morning. Read more. The funeral took place yesterday of Frank Murray, the man who began his career as tour manager with Thin Lizzy, and worked with Elton John and the Specials, before managing the Pogues, as well as the Frames, the Lost Brothers and more, in what was a highly distinguished career. Read more. Christmas may be coming, but in the wake of the most astonishing U.S. presidential election in living memory, the fear that a cadre of white supremacists may get their hands on the levers of power is growing. And it feels like uncharted territory. Read more. One of the leading lights of Irish music for the past 25 years, Glenn Hansard has been chosen as the recipient of the Oscar Wilde Award for 2017, which will be presented during Oscar Week in Los Angeles. No one is more deserving. Read more. This is 2016 and very strange and deeply disquieting things have been happening in the US and here in Ireland. It might help if we stopped singing the praises of people guilty of butchering their families, Niall Stokes said in the message, written in that pregnant pause between the opening of the polling booths and the calculation of the result in the U.S. election. Clearly an afterword is required. Read more. There was an Irish winner tonight, as the novel Solar Bones found favour with the judges, in an award which aims to reward genuine innovation. Read more. The decision of the Nobel Committee to award the Nobel Prize for Literature to Bob Dylan had some culture snobs frothing at the mouth. Even Bob doesn't seem to know what to make of it all. Read more. It was an emotional occasion when the homespun Irish epic was unveiled in Dublin's Savoy Cinema last night. Read more. The world's greatest rock journalist has broken a decade-long silence to discuss his potential role in the presidential stakes. Read more. Considerable controversy has surrounded the trailblazing Galway restaurant, but the Michelin judges say that it's still right up there, at the top of the game. Read more. It is just over 40 years since Larry Mullen put the note on the notice board in Mount Temple Comprehensive, which led to the formation of U2. His various contributions to this special issue of Hot Press confirm that gesture changed the world for millions of people all over the globe. But that they are still together is perhaps the band's greatest achievement. Read more. The Hot Press Collective sends a message to the people of Ireland. Read more. Hot Press alumni are among the leading attractions at the upcoming Right by the Sea Festival in Kilmorky. Read more. The Minister for Skills, Training and Innovation, John Halligan, put his head above the parapet in relation to the laws on prostitution in Ireland. As it happens, he was right. Read more. Irish people have moved on in a way that is genuinely impressive. Dr. Laura Kelly's testimony on abortion is one example, but there is a new honesty among Irish politicians too that gives cause for optimism. Read more. The family of the Mayo woman, who disappeared in December 2000, have called for an inquest into her death. Read more. Anyone who has experienced the manifest beauty and wonderful joie de vivre of Nice at its best will have been deeply moved at the shocking mass murder on the Promenade des Anglais July 18. But Europe must look into its own heart too, to find answers. Read more. Reports that HMV are to close down their 4 Irish stores have been confirmed, but news reports that the company's new online platform will go head-to-head with streaming giant Netflix are not accurate. Read more. Details are emerging of the deal, concluded yesterday, which saw Virgin Media, owners of TV3 by UTV Ireland. Read more. The UK referendum was won by the Leave side on the promise that Britain would take back control of its borders. Their victory will stoke far-right, anti-immigrant sentiment across the continent. Read more. For a wonderful 60 minutes, it seemed that Ireland might just oust the hosts France from Euro 2016. That dream may have died as a result of errors in Lions yesterday, but the sense that Irish football is on the rise once more is a wonderfully encouraging one. By Niall Stokes. Read more. It was an enthralling day of football at Euro 2016, with Ireland getting off to a solid start in Group E, only to be trumped by a brilliant Italian win over Belgium. Read more. Irish water and repealing the 8th can take a backseat as the Euros kick off in France. Now all we need are a few Shane Long hat-tricks to seal the deal. Read more. A year on from our historic and momentous yes vote on Ireland's same-sex marriage referendum, we look back at Niall Stokes' pre-vote message urging the citizens of Ireland to vote for freedom, equality and mutual respect. Read more. Religious control of schools promotes inequality, prejudice, division, and worse. It is also against the founding spirit of the Republic. It must be challenged now. Read more. Guy Clark was one of the greatest songwriters of the modern era, and in Old Number One, he made one of the most extraordinary and enduring albums of all time. By Hot Press editor, Niall Stokes. Read more. Prince was the latest in a long line of black artists, from Sam Cooke and Otis Redding to Jimi Hendrix and Marvin Gaye, to push the envelope, both musically and culturally. Read more. Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil need to end the posturing and hammer out a deal, which will provide the country with a sustainable government. Read more. The Proclamation of 1916 was a powerful document. In recalling the momentous events of 100 years ago, it is important not just to honor those who took part in the rising, but even more so to see what we can learn in order to best shape our future. Read more. Where now for the Labour Party, after an electoral annihilation the scale of which outstripped all their worst fears. Read more. As the nation heads to the polls, it's vital to consider not just the candidates vying for our votes, but the type of country in which we want to live. Read more. When Enya released Watermark in 1988, it was the beginning of one of the most remarkable chapters in the story of Irish music. With Nicky Ryan and Roma Ryan ever present as collaborators, 80 million album sales and dozens of awards followed. Now, after a 7-year hiatus, she is back with a new record, Dark Sky Island, and a determination to take the collective's music to the world in a different way. Read more. Darkness seemed to be everywhere in 2015. It is hard to maintain any sense of hope when barbarism is so militantly on the rise. But if we don't, we surely will be lost. Read more. The orchestrated jihadist attacks on Paris were an abomination. And worst of the atrocities took place at a rock gig in the Bataclan, where 89 people died. So where do we go from here? Read more. As the Innocence Experience Tour finally approaches Irish shores, it's time to once again celebrate U2, not just the best of Irish but the greatest rock band in the world. Read more. As recently highlighted by Rupesh Panikkar, it is outrageous that, in 2015, educational discrimination on the basis of religion is still the norm in Ireland. Read more. After the high of beating the world champions, Neanderthal tactics and selections by Martin O'Neill ensured that the boys in green could not match the Sunday heroics of our rugby team. Read more. We've come a long way since the 60s, with music, literature, movies, TV and journalism all playing their part to reduce the stigma of mental illness. But reason must still prevail if we are to continue to make strides. Read more. With Europe's response to the refugee crisis lacking in effectiveness and empathy, the threat of ISIS suggests W.B. Yeats' most chilling words are now perfectly fitting for these times. Read more. Amidst the shock and grief of Johnny Lyon's premature passing, we pause to give thanks to a truly unique character for the countless laughs and many golden memories he gave us. Shine on, sir. Read more. As rental prices of houses and apartments skyrocket, especially in Dublin, thousands of Irish men, women and, unforgivably, children find themselves at grave risk of homelessness. Between them, local politicians and the government must find a solution, and fast. Read more. It is easy to vilify those who take banned substances in the pursuit of sporting glory, but some of those who would be named and shamed are far more sympathetic figures than we would like to admit. Read more, or Ireland at least. Blazing Rose erupted and staff members had to be pried apart, but the votes are in and the 50 best Irish gigs since Hot Press's inception have been settled on. Read more. The response to the tragedy in Berkeley was powerful and moving. But it is hard to listen to celebrities claiming a special relationship with God, when there are so many victims of tragedy, and of oppression to think about. Read more. Sunday, June 14th marks the 20th anniversary of the legendary Rory Gallagher's tragic death. While the world has changed in many ways, the trailblazing guitarist's impact is still keenly felt. Read more. It was a joy to be alive in Dublin on the day the result of the referendum was announced. But there is still some way to go in the campaign for the separation of church and state. Read more. We're uncompromising. We're uncompromising to a fault, I think. Because sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we wind up blind alleys. You know, maybe Radio Ethiopia sucks. I don't know. Me and Patty are the only ones that like it in the world. But I don't care, cause when we put that on we feel great. Lenny K. First published in Hot Press Volume 2 No. 7, September 1978. Read more. The referendum on same-sex marriage is an opportunity for the citizens of Ireland to vote for freedom, equality and mutual respect, and in doing so to show the rest of the world what these words can really mean. Read more. With Hozier, Ham Sandwich, Paul Brady, La Galaxy and Codaline all doing well, we are witnessing a small boom in Irish music. So how can we ensure that it lifts an even greater number of Ireland's finest into the charts? Read more. Irish people who genuinely believe in free speech need to support the scrapping of our blasphemy laws. Read more. These are turbulent times, as Sinn Féin and socialist independents find themselves in the unprecedented situation of topping the opinion polls. However you view this, pause to be thankful that there is no hard right movement of significance in Ireland, and no apparent appetite for one. Read more. It was one of those special Dublin nights. The occasion was a fundraiser for a new short film, entitled Descend, directed by Hetty Rose, and written by Irish-based Texan screenwriter Margaret Miller. The location was upstairs in the 51 bar on Haddington Road. Read more. Like paying to have your rubbish collected, Irish Water is another stealth charge, the genesis of which goes back to the decision to abolish household rates. Read more. Check out her take on streaming. Read more.